Hello everyone, it's Al Nygren back with the last of our filmmaker interviews for the 2016 New Jersey International Film Festival, which is being held at Rutgers University between June 4th to June 18th on select Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings. We have multiple programs with 21 films being screened from around the world. Each evening will feature a short or a series of shorts with a feature film, and each evening will have guest appearances by filmmakers. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to intermingle with very talented people. It's not a pretentious festival. It's very grassroots and it's open to the public. Please join us. Today we have a wonderful filmmaker who I've known for many years. He was a winner at 2 of our previous festivals, Daniel Maldonado. And he's going to be screening his wonderful new film called H.O.M.E. Please welcome.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about this great film, Daniel.
Well, H.O.M.E. is basically a film that has taken some time to make, about 5 years actually.
Wow.
And now we've finished it and ready to share with audiences. And H.O.M.E. is basically a film comprised of 2 stories, both set in New York City. One, the first story, which is mostly set in New York City subways, involves a young man with Asperger's syndrome who journeys through the subways. Basically, he's run away from home and he's searching for his autonomy, essentially. And it's more lyrical and it's about his observations living in the subway and his interactions. The second story is about a Ecuadorian driver in Queens who meets a Chinese woman who's stranded in Flushing and offers her a ride home back to Chinatown. And it's about their connection and their communication in the car traveling back. And so that's more about their connection despite the language barriers and the cultural barriers. And so essentially the themes in both stories focus on urban alienation, communication, and using also modes of transportation to highlight New York City as this constant thing in motion. So
Yeah, I mean, the city is definitely a fourth character.
yeah.
And you have the city that's above ground and you have the underground. Mm-hmm. And the film is mostly shot in the nighttime.
Yeah.
For the most part. So it's kind of interesting that even when it's above ground,
mm-hmm.
it seems like it's underground at the same time.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite scenes is the interaction between the boy with Asperger's syndrome, mm-hmm. who's a wonderful actor, by the way. He's really talented. And he stumbles upon this pigeon
mm-hmm.
who he wants to give some food to. And the interaction between him and the pigeon is quite wonderful. And I asked you, I said, is that a trained pigeon? And
yeah, well, we got lucky as in many parts of the casting process, including the pigeon. But that is a pigeon that was obtained on a rooftop in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And I basically had a choice of pigeons in a coop, and that was the most unique one.
Yeah, very interesting. Kind of like him, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think this little side story on that was that we had to clip its wings in order for it not to fly away during our takes. Mm-hmm. And one of the last takes of that production of that story involved the pigeon flying away, right. Which I'm not going to give it away, but basically the wings, I guess, weren't clipped enough, and so it disappeared for a few hours, halting production. So, yeah.
So the other story has this cab driver who's also longing for home. Mm-hmm. Home is the destination ultimately, being sought out by all of these characters. Mm-hmm. And being a huge soccer fan, he's also following a game, a national team game, because he's Ecuadorian, mm-hmm. and that interaction kind of propels him to wanting to go home. Was that something that was scripted and something premeditated when you were writing the story?
I would say somewhere in the subconscious. I wasn't maybe in the forefront, but I felt like even the title as an acronym, opens up the discussion of what home means. Yeah. And I think it's a little different for each character. And essentially, I like to call it a place where you're centered, or safe. And so I wanted to explore different, maybe interpretations through each character.
So this film took 5 years to make. Were any trials and tribulations in the making of the film? Obstacles that can you give us an insight into some of those?
Aside from the general obstacles which involve, independent filmmaking, I think what happened was we originally had 3 stories. We dropped one of the stories and became a two-part film. And then the original cut was a version that had each story, presented one after the other.
I see.
And I think it proved a little bit of a challenge for audiences initially. So going back into the edit room after 3 years, we decided to intertwine the stories and kind of draw the contrast between the above ground and the below ground. And so I think the post-production really held us up, trying to find the real meaning of the story. So that took a little while.
You have these 3 wonderful actors. Tell us a little bit about them.
Sure. Jeremy Ray Valdez plays Danny, the young man with Asperger's. He's an actor that I sought out from his previous work. He's LA-based, and we worked with him in a very much experimental improv way during the subway scenes. Angela Lynn is an actress who we met through our casting directors, Orpheus Group Casting, and she's done a lot of work on Broadway, now doing a lot of work on television. She's out in LA right now. And Jesus Ochoa, who's a Mexican actor, very big in Mexico. He's won a few Airwheel Awards. And he was just, I was lucky. I mean, he's very hard to get hold of and to nail down, but we brought him out to New York for a few weeks of shooting.
And he's a very sympathetic character. You really feel for him, and you want the best for all 3 characters, but it's him especially, I think.
Yeah, he brings a little bit of that comic relief, and sometimes it kind of balances the story in a way.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So. Well, we're kind of running out of time, folks. You've got to see H.O.M.E, which is our final film, the last film, and is very representative of what the New Jersey International Film Festival is all about, which is to share the human trials and tribulations, a humanist film festival, and this film really certainly underscores that feeling. H.O.M.E is going to be preceded by 4 short films that somehow have a connection to yours. Right. The Suitor, which is by Alvaro Congosto, who I will be also interviewing, or actually already interviewed. His first film is set during the War of the Worlds broadcast in 1938 and is a romance between neighbors. Twinsburg by Joe Garrity is about twins who go to a weekend revival or convention of twins. It's a really very Wes Anderson-like film, David Lynch-type film. Rubado by Erica Watson is a great film that's shot in the south of France and is about a young photographer who sees things he's not supposed to see. May or Never by Giulio Podomani is an Italian film that deals with 2 women lovers that have really interesting kind of chemistry, and then your film finishes off the evening. So it's a wonderful program. Saturday, June 18th, $12 general admission. More information is at our website, njfilmfest.com. Hope you will join us, and thank you so much for watching us. Thanks.
What's your name?
Danny. And what's your name?
I'm Carly.
Carly. Is that Carly with a K?
No, a C.
Carly with a C. Okay.
Nice to meet you, Danny.
It's nice to meet you too.